So you're thinking about moving to Tucson, Arizona. Well, in this video, we're gonna show you around Tucson, Arizona. We're gonna take you downtown, show you all around. Then we're gonna take you over to the University of Arizona and show you around there a little bit. And then we're gonna stop off at the top 3 neighborhoods according to niche.com and show you around those neighborhoods so you can get a feel for what it's like to live here in Tucson, Arizona. And we're gonna get after it right now. If this is your first time to the channel and you'd like to know everything about living in Tucson, Arizona, then subscribe below, tap the bell for notifications so you can be the first to know about the current market here in Tucson, Arizona. My name is Trisha Kay. My partner Carter, the team and I, we get calls and emails every single day from people just like you looking for help in making their move to Tucson, and we absolutely love it. So whether you're moving in 3 days or 3 months, give us a call, shoot us a text, or send us an email. We'll be happy to help you make a smooth move to Tucson, Arizona. So like I said, today we're going to tell you all about Tucson. We're going to take you around in the car, show you some of the downtown area, the city, and then we'll take you over to the University of Arizona and show you around there, show you some of the houses and what it's like to live down there. And then we'll take you around the 3 top neighborhoods from niche.com, what they call the top neighborhoods. We'll show you around there and kind of give you some prices so you know what you can get for your money here in Tucson. And if you stick around to the end of this video, I'm going to show you one of the Tucson traditions and you're not going to want to miss it. And we're going to get after it right now. Okay, so a few things about Tucson. Tucson is also known as the Old Pueblo. That's another name for Tucson. There's a lot of Spanish and a lot of Indian influence here in Tucson, and you'll see that a lot. It reflects in a lot of the building and the architecture, especially downtown. There's some older houses and there's some older buildings that are really just beautiful. They have a lot of arches and just Adobe made out of, Adobe mud, and just some really beautiful buildings, and it's really pretty to look at. So we'll take you around and show you a little bit of that. Someone lives in Tucson, they're called a Tucsonan, and if you've lived here your whole life and if you were born here, you're called a native Tucsonan. That's what they refer to Tucson people as. There's 5 different mountain ranges here in Tucson. There's the Catalina Mountains, the Rincon Mountains, the Santa Rita Mountains, the Tucson Mountains, and then the Torlita Mountains. So it's kind of a valley here in Tucson, Arizona. The city is not really close to the mountains, but as it spreads out and you get into those suburbs, then it is. You can build right at the base. There's lots of houses right at the base of the mountains and some beautiful, beautiful views. And so Tucson is just kind of a valley, and it's really neat because anywhere you are in Tucson, whether you're in the city or you're in the suburbs, you're going to see mountains. So that is really neat. The actual city of Tucson covers 226.7 miles. So that's how big it is. The population of the city is 542,629. Now that's within the city itself. There's lots of suburbs right outside the city, and they blend right with the city. You don't hardly even notice when you're leaving one and going into the other. But once you do start going into the suburbs, things start getting spaced out a little bit. In the city, everything's real close together, and as you drive out a little bit further, things are a little bit further apart. So in the metropolitan area of Tucson, which is the city and the surrounding suburbs, there's a population of 1,014,000 people here in Tucson. So it's a pretty good sized place. There's several big businesses here in Tucson. So if you're wondering what some of the business are that people work at, I wrote down some of those. Raytheon Missile Systems is a big one. University of Arizona, of course, is a big one. Honeywell Aerospace, Banner University Medical Center, Roche Tissue Diagnostics, Caterpillar has a main headquarters here. Sargent has a big building here. Carondelet Health Network employs a lot of people here. So there's a lot of different businesses here in Tucson, and those are not all within the city, but within the metropolitan area of Tucson. So there's lots of places to work, and there's many, many more. Like I said, Davis-Monthan has an Air Force base here, so that has a lot of people also. And Tucson is very, like I said, the more you move towards the outskirts, it's a little bit more spread out. So there's a lot to Tucson, and it can take you a while to drive from one side to the other because it is very spread out. But in the city area is a little more condensed and a little bit closer together. So Tucson has over 300 days of sunshine every year, lots and lots of sunshine. 9 months out of the year, the weather is just so perfect here. We have amazing winters because the days are nice and warm. You can even wear shorts in the daytime, which is really nice, but it's funny because it's kind of extreme weather. You can wear shorts during the day, but at night you're going to need a jacket because it gets cold at night. But the next day it warms up again and you can be wearing shorts during a winter's day, so that's pretty neat. Now we have 3 months out of the year that's really hot. June, July, and August are very hot here. They're just really hot, and I'm being honest with you. Tucson is very hot in the summertime. It's great if you have a swimming pool, and air conditioning is a must. So those are things you should know about Tucson. And also during those months we can get monsoon season, which usually starts in June. Actually, I always say by July 4th monsoon season starts. That's just like, I just noticed it on July 4th. It seems like, oh, they're here now. And that's where about 5 o'clock these clouds come rolling in, and then there's big crazy thunderstorms with pouring rain and lightning. It's just crazy. It's really kind of fun to watch them roll in if you're in your house. If you're out driving, they're not very fun to be in, but they're really neat. They rain like crazy, and then the next morning you wake up and the sun is out again and it's shining and it's beautiful. But those 3 months, because of the rain and the heat, it does get humid during those months. The other 9 months out of the year, Tucson has a dry heat, and that's what it's known for, is having a dry heat. You know, 100-degree day here in Tucson is not the same as a 100-degree day in Florida. It's just drier and it's nice. My nephew just came out from Texas, and here it's summer right now, and he said, oh my gosh, it's so much nicer here because in Texas it's humid compared to Tucson. It's just a dry heat. So it's hot, don't get me wrong, it is hot. But it is a dry heat most of the time until it hits monsoon season, which I'm gonna say is about July 4th. And then it gets more humid with the rain. And then that goes on for a couple months, and then it goes back to wonderful, wonderful winters. So because we have such great winters, Tucson has a lot of outdoor activities. So some of the activities that Tucson is known for are hiking and biking and world-class golf. Tucson has a lot of golfing, I think because we do have these wonderful winter days and people can golf all day long. You can golf all year long, really, and there's a lot of golfing here, and that's pretty neat because we have so many golf courses, and then a lot of people, their homes are built on the golf courses, so they back up to some grass, which is kind of special because here in the desert there's not a lot of grass. So it's pretty neat when your house backs up to the golf course and you don't have to maintain that grass, but you get to look out there and see it, so that's kind of nice. Another thing is, because we're surrounded by mountains, a lot of homes in the Tucson area have mountain views that are just amazing, and each set of mountains is really different. Some of them are pine-covered mountains, some of them are rocky mountains, like cliffy, rocky, chiseled mountains. Other ones are saguaro-covered mountains, which those are just beautiful too. Every mountain set has its own characters, and they're just really absolutely beautiful. So those are some neat things about Tucson that make it kind of unique. Like I had mentioned before, there's a lot of Spanish and a lot of Indian influence here in Tucson, and you'll notice that in a lot of the buildings. When we're around town, you'll see lots of, beautiful Adobe buildings and different things. There's a big vibrant art scene here in Tucson also, I would say, especially downtown, and there's a street right by downtown that kind of connects the university and the downtown area that's called 4th Avenue, and that's a very artsy street. And even downtown, there's a lot of big murals on the buildings, huge murals, really neat, beautiful, some beautiful murals, some crazy looking murals. There's a little bit of everything, but it's very artsy down there in both the university area and the downtown area. Lots of murals, lots of lights, lots of music, lots of little restaurants and different shops and breweries and things like that. But it is definitely a live, artsy kind of a place, very vibrant art scene down there. There's art museums and stuff too. So lots of neat things down there. So the downtown area has a tram, and it's connected from downtown, and it goes down 4th Avenue and it goes over to the University of Arizona. So it's all connected by this tram, and I think there's a very small fee to take this tram. So it's kind of neat. If you live down there, you can get a lot of places pretty easily on this tram, and it's all connected through there. Downtown, you go underneath an underpass to get to the 4th Avenue stretch, and the 4th Avenue is where I'm telling you there's a lot of little restaurants and breweries and things down there. And then it connects with University Boulevard, which dead ends right there into the university. And the shopping kind of changes when it gets closer to the university, and it's a little more like an actual mall. And there's restaurants and all sorts of little coffee houses and stuff there. So it's really pretty neat, and it's all kind of connected, but it's also spaced apart by that underpass. It kind of separates the 4th Avenue University area from downtown, but they are very close together, and you can ride the tram and get to each one of those. Right by the downtown area, there's also an area called Barrio Historico, and it's about 20 blocks long, and it's some of the old houses. They're Adobe style houses, and they're painted these bright, beautiful colors. A lot of them have been rehabbed and updated, and some of them are offices, law offices or medical offices. Some of them are, restaurants, and then some of them people still just live in the houses. And it's right there by downtown. It's really a cool place to check out and just see, because it really is like a little piece of history for Tucson, that Barrio district. But there's some really neat, colorful homes, and it's a neat place to drive drive around and maybe stop and have some lunch or something, it's a neat little area to check out. It's definitely something you don't want to miss. So the 4th Avenue area, the downtown, you go underpass, and then that's where the 4th Avenue area is, and then you head east on University and you'll go right into the University. So they're all kind of connected, they're close together, they're not all one, like when you're at the University, you're not in downtown, and when you're on 4th Avenue, you're not even downtown, but you can see some of the buildings in the distance. But once you go under that underpass, you are in downtown Tucson. So I'm just trying to give you a little feel of what that feels like. And the Barrio area, Barrio Viejo, means old neighborhood in Spanish. And it is an old neighborhood, but it's a really cool place to check out. Downtown Tucson has a very lively area. There's lots of restaurant, lots of art, lots of big murals there on the buildings. There's lots of lofts and apartments, all sorts of things down there that people live in and travel and just, hang out at downtown Tucson. There's so many restaurants and shops and artistic things. There's art galleries and museums. There's a children's museum down there that's absolutely so cool to go to. It's definitely worth taking your kids down there to check it out and let them, it's a field trip for a day. I mean, there's a lot going on down there. It's really neat, really beautiful. Lots of cool stuff down there. Lots of neat buildings. Church down there, the St. Augustine Church is just absolutely beautiful, really beautiful church. And there's other buildings too that are just really old and a lot of really cool architecture, so you've got to check that out. The Tucson Convention Center is right down there, right by downtown, and the Barrio area is the Tucson Convention Center. So whenever there's big concerts or anything like that, those are held at the TCC is what we call it, the Tucson Community Center. There's also a mountain down there that has the giant A on it. It's right the other side of the freeway from downtown, but you can't miss it. And the U of A takes care of, it's funny, over St. Patrick's Day, they'll go up and paint the A green, and then after St. Patrick's Day, it goes back to white, but A Mountain is right there near downtown, and that's a fun thing to see too. Tucson has great dining, great restaurants. Tucson's just known for having really good food, and they really, truly do. We're a foodie town, and we're known worldwide for culinary and amazing assortment of restaurants, including 23 miles of the best Mexican food. That it's just a premier destination for Mexican food in the whole country. It's really good Mexican food, and it's neat that we have that 23-mile strip of really good Mexican food. But there's good Mexican food all over Tucson, like nowhere you've ever had it, truly. I think it's because we're so close to the border. Arizona borders Mexico, and so we just have a lot of really great food. So that's kind of a neat thing about Tucson. The University of Arizona, the students there are known as the Arizona Wildcats. The University of Arizona's been around a long time. It's very spread out. It's a really pretty red brick buildings throughout. And there's lots of green grass on this area they call the U of A Mall. There's lots of green grass, and people tailgate there when there's a football game or something. Tucson is very much a college support town, so when there's a basketball game or a football game, it gets busy down there by the U of A. All the people come, they like to watch the game. Even if they don't have students there, it's just fun to go and watch the games live. So the University of Arizona is a big deal here in Tucson, Arizona. So at the University of Arizona, they have 29,498 students enrolled there with a cost of an average of $17,424 a year to attend there. So there's definitely a lot of students that go to the University of Arizona, a lot of people that live around the University of Arizona. And when you're down by the U of Arizona, you'll see lots of little bungalow buildings, old homes that were built, and a lot of students rent these old homes, and they're super cute architecture and stuff down there. It's really fun to just kind of drive around and check it out, but that's a neat little area. The downtown area in Tucson has a lot of big murals and paintings. It's very lively. And the second Saturday of every month, they have a big deal down there called Downtown Saturday Nights, and all the restaurants and all the stores stay open late on that Saturday night. And it's really neat to go down there. They have live music and street performers. And we went down last weekend and we had reservations at this restaurant called The Hub, and I was pleasantly surprised. It was so nice and clean and great service, and they sat us right by the window so we could look out the window, and we saw all sorts of neat stuff going out on the street, lots of things going on, and that was really neat. So it's definitely a vibrant city, and it is very artsy down there. Like I said, some of the big, huge, tall buildings have giant murals on them and all sorts of things down there. It's really neat to check out. And then you can drive around on that or ride around on that tram. It comes to downtown and then it'll take you all the way, back to the university. It stops at lots of different places, so it's a cool little thing down there. So there's that 4th Avenue area that I'm telling you about, and it has lots of shops and restaurants and all sorts of things down there. But one thing I wanted to tell you about there is 2 times a year they have what's called the 4th Avenue Street Fair. They have it once in the spring and then again in the fall, and it is many blocks of artisans that set up, and they close down the streets, and you can walk and it's just a really neat place that all sorts of artists set up. And I mean, it's blocks and blocks and blocks and blocks. It's not just a little thing, it's several blocks. People come from everywhere, and they have these booths with all these creative things that people have made or things you can order. And I like to go right around Christmas time because there's just really cool gifts and really neat things. And like I said, this is not small. I should have looked up how many people are there, but there's a lot. It's a big deal. So twice a year, the 4th Avenue Street Fair comes down to 4th Avenue. They do bring food trucks and stuff in for that, but there's all sorts of restaurants and things down there too. And it's a neat thing you definitely want to catch at least once, but more than once I go. I think it's a fun place. Like I said, I like to go pick up some Christmas gifts when I go down there. Okay, so now we're moving on to the top 3 neighborhoods in Tucson according to niche.com. So the number 1 neighborhood they call is Highland Vista Cinco Villa. And that neighborhood is a bunch of older houses, but they're close together, but a lot of them are old brick houses, but they're really neat. And some of them even have grass, which is really rare in Tucson. But going through there, you do see some of that. And just a lot of really neat houses in there. I'll take you through the neighborhood so you can see some of those homes and just get a feel for what it's like in that neighborhood. And I did look up for you, the least expensive house in the last 6 months that sold in that neighborhood was $305,000, and the most expensive home in that neighborhood sold for $475,000. And again, that was in the last 6 months, so I just wanted to kind of give you an idea what homes in there go for. They are a nicer size, they're a good size home in that area. I'm going to say, 2,500 square feet, right around in there. So the next neighborhood, the number 2 neighborhood, they call Mckale, and the homes in there are a little bit smaller. They're the same style, and it seems like some of those are more than just brick houses. I saw white houses and brown houses and different colors homes are in there. So it's not all just little brick houses. And Highland Vista is not all little brick houses, but there was a lot of them, but they really looked really neat. And some of them had like whitewashed brick. They really have a character all their own, and they don't all look exactly alike, which is really nice. And the same with Mckale. The neighborhoods are actually very similar, but what I did notice was the Mckale homes seemed a little bit smaller. So I will tell you the least expensive home in the Mckale area was $285,000, and the most expensive home in that neighborhood that I saw in the last 6 months, I looked these up, was $405,000. So that tells you about the Mckale neighborhood and the Highland Vista Cinco Villa neighborhood. Now the next neighborhood, this is the number 3 neighborhood in the city of Tucson. This one is called the Sam Hughes neighborhood. Now this is a historic neighborhood, as are the other 2, but this neighborhood is exactly across the street from the U of A. So these property values are much higher because they're much more expensive to get into. A lot of people live in those houses and they like to walk to the games, like a lot of retired people or professors or whatever. This is a really kind of fancy neighborhood, and it's right across from the U of A, and it's older, and the buildings are definitely have that Spanish style, some are Mediterranean style, just really cool houses, different colored houses, big trees in there. There is some grass and lawns in some of these houses, which is really rare for Tucson. You don't see that a lot. So it's a really neat neighborhood in that Sam Hughes area. So the least expensive house that I pulled up that sold in the last 6 months was $300,000. And the most expensive home in Sam Hughes was $1,650,000. Now these are historic homes, and they have very unique looks. Each house looks different than the one next door. They have a lot of character, a lot of charm, and they're just beautiful homes. So that kind of tells you the Sam Hughes. But literally, when you're on the U of A mall, you can be looking out at the street light, and across the street is the Sam Hughes neighborhood, and it's just right there and really close to the University of Arizona, and just a really beautiful, charming, lots of character in that neighborhood. So that is the Sam Hughes neighborhood. There you have it, the 3 best neighborhoods according to niche.com in the city of Tucson. Now there is lots of other areas, lots of suburbs in Tucson, so I'm only showing you what's in the city of Tucson. I have lots of other videos out on different suburbs and different areas and different locations. So if you're not wanting to be within the city limits and you want a little more land, or they have like brand new subdivision homes, those would be in the suburbs of Tucson. So check out my other videos to see those, but these are the 3 neighborhoods that I wanted to go over in the city of Tucson. There's a few more things I want to make sure that I mention about the city of Tucson. Tucson every year has a gem and mineral show. Every February, they bring in over 50,000 people. And what the Gem and Mineral Show is, it's where all the jewelry stores come to buy their jewels. I mean, Tucson is just, you have to find a hotel well in advance because we sell out of hotels every year. Just like I said, over 50,000 people come every year to this Gem and Mineral Show in February. And you see big white tents popping up all over town. The Tucson Convention Center is booked. A lot of the large hotels and their convention centers are booked. It's really cool if you ever get to go to that. A lot of it is open to the public, and that's really neat, but there are some places that are just closed for licensed jewelers only. But one time I did go in with a friend, and it's amazing. I mean, I go to the Gem and Mineral Show all the time, but I got into the jewelry part one time where the licensed jewelers go, and they literally have little bowls of stones, all colored stones. It looked like a candy store, but it was all jewels. It's just amazing. A lot of unset stones. And again, it's a really cool thing, and it's known internationally for being the gem and mineral place to come. The other cool thing is there's lots of things for the public too. There's lots of jewelry for sale. There's lots of old Indian art for sale and baskets and fossils, lots of fossils. And there's a program that you can look at, or you can look online, and it tells you where the different areas are. Like there's areas that just focus on crystals, or just focus on fossils, or just focus on jewelry. So you can look it up, and it's a cool thing to go to. Every year in February they have it, and I've been several times. It's a really, really special thing for Tucson, and it's a great thing to check out, and it's one of the things that we're known for. So another thing that I'm going to bring up that we have here in Tucson, it's kind of more on the outskirts of Tucson, is the Biosphere 2. You've probably heard of it, maybe not. So the Biosphere is Earth. It's planet Earth, and that's Biosphere 1. But Biosphere 2 is here in Tucson, and they built, it's kind of the outskirts of Tucson, and they built this glass atrium almost, and it's huge. And people lived in there, and they grew their own garden, and they had their own water, and they literally lived in there to see what life would be like living just like that. So they did that, and it's still a place you can go and you can tour and check out. I did hear, and it's been many years since it opened, and there's still lots of tours going on there, but I heard they're doing it again. They're getting ready to put in another batch of people and do the experiment again. So I'm curious to see how that goes. I'm not sure when that's going to happen, but I did hear that recently. So the other thing that I wanted to tell you is that in Tucson, again in February, we have what's called the Tucson Rodeo. Now Tucson, they have this rodeo every year, and they have everything from bull riding to calf roping to mutton busting for little kids. You know, there's broncos, there's calf roping and team roping. They have all sorts of rodeos, all sorts of events at this rodeo, and it's definitely something worth checking out. In fact, in Tucson, Arizona, the schools actually close down for 2 days, and they give you an extended break. So they'll close like on a Thursday and a Friday. So you have Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday to go to the rodeo if you want to. And a lot of schools have field trips down there. And that week at school, it will be rodeo week, and the kids all dress up like cowboys. I mean, even in high school, they just have fun with it. Now, not everybody goes to the rodeo, but everybody goes to the rodeo at least once. Some people take that time from school. They have a break that other schools don't have, and they'll go on vacation, and you can do that too. But the rodeo is really pretty neat. You got to catch it at least once. It's a real thing. It's been going on since I was a kid. And Phoenix doesn't have it. It's just a Tucson tradition, is the Tucson Rodeo. And it's really neat. Lots of people come in from all over the country to take part in the rodeo, and that's a really cool thing that we have here in February. So the last thing that I saved to tell you about here in Tucson is Tucson has the Tour de Tucson, which every November before Thanksgiving, we put on a huge bike race that happens in Tucson, and we have over 9,000 bicycle enthusiasts that come into town every year just for this Tour de Tucson. Tucson is a huge, huge biking city. We have a loop that goes around Tucson. It's 131 miles, and everybody practices on that loop, and it's a paved loop where you can bike or walk all year long, and it's not part of the street. It's like its own paved loop. We're a huge bike town, like I said, and so every year this is the biggest race, I believe, let me see, the largest cycling race in the whole US, known as the Tour de Tucson, is here, and it comes every year in November, and it's a big deal here. And the closer it gets, like October, you really start seeing a lot of bikers out there prepping for this race, and it comes up every year, and that's definitely a Tucson tradition and something that you're going to see and know about if you live here in Tucson. Thank you again for watching this video on Tucson, Arizona. I hope it was helpful to you, and if it was, if you wouldn't mind hitting the like button for me, that helps out our channel a lot. I really appreciate it. If there's a specific video you'd like to see, please leave it in the comments. We'd love to take care of that for you. And again, we have lots of videos about living in Tucson, not just the city, but also the suburbs. So if you're not thinking about living in the city of Tucson and you want to check out the suburbs, please check out those other videos. We have videos on Oro Valley, Marana, Catalina Foothills, and more, lots of videos. We tell you the pros and cons of Tucson, the pros and cons of those suburbs. So please check out our channel if you want to know more about living in Tucson. Until then, I hope to see you around town.